Good afternoon. Um, we're at the final day of the VIV trade show in Utrecht in the Netherlands, and with me here is Robert Nijkamp from this country. Robert is a broiler grower, which I've recently visited for Avinews magazine. And when I arrived on his farm, I was quite impressed about what I was seeing, because the very special poultry house he has built looks like a kind of soccer stadium rather than a regular poultry house. And that's why I'm asking, I've got it here, it's in the magazine, and it's got a very particular size and shape. And to Robert, the question: why did you build this particular kind of house, which is named windstreek house, or in English, wind direction house? Robert, tell me.
Yeah,
what happened?
thank you for asking me, but it's a big story about my house. And it started with a research from of the university, Wageningen University, initiated by the government to develop more sustainable houses, and especially more animal welfare friendly houses. That was the starting point. There was a big project, and there were more farmers involved and veterinarians, but also people from animal welfare companies to stick together and develop and from scratch develop a new housing system. And we developed not one system, but we made 2 or 3 drawings from totally different systems to help broiler growing from day one, day-old chickens, to full-grown broilers. And one of the projects was, one of the drawings was the windstreek house, a fully naturally ventilated house with a lot of daylight, without fence or technical equipment, and try to copy what's happening in nature, what mother hen does in nature. That was the principles of this drawing. And because I was one of the founders of all the 3 drawings, but I was most surprised and happy with the simple version, the windstreek version, the wind direction version of our drawings. And I say, okay, if this can work, we have to calculate, then I like to build it on my farm. That's how it started.
Yeah, okay, a drawing is one thing. A drawing can be beautiful, but once you start building, you start investing. And what did you decide to indeed start building the house? Were you confident in the principle?
Yeah, it's in our country we have for the last decade, I think there is a big movement from animal welfare companies who try to shout to people and say, okay, be aware of the animal welfare of the birds. And so you see that people in supermarkets and retail make more and more choices for a slower growing brand, a slower growing broiler, which stays longer on the farm. And
do you have a slow growing broiler, by the way?
Yeah,
okay.
I do have in all the 3 houses slower growing broilers. And so I thought it fits perfectly in as a next step in slower growing, more animal welfare. So that's why I thought if the system works, then I like to build it on my farm.
Yeah.
And before it works, I think we calculated for 4 or 5 years. Does natural ventilation work on your farm, especially when there's no wind? Is the principle of heating up not the whole house, but only the brooder part, the small parts, which copy almost the mother hen, the feathers of the mother hen? Does that work? So there were a lot of issues we have to calculate and test.
How do you heat that area, where the brooding area?
The brooding area is heated by infrared panels. We thought about it and we say, okay, the solar gives us energy, the sun gives us energy.
You've got solar panels on your farm.
So why don't we use solar panels to heat up the brooder parts? And that's the easiest way with infrared heating system.
Okay, the most efficient way of heating.
Yeah.
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 Okay. And then
And we try also to be as sustainable as possible. So it's for me very important to collect the energy of the sun to put it in your brooders.
Yeah.
So that's a good combination.
okay, so it's energy, low energy consumption
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. If
That-
I can, I'm farming in that house for about 5 years right now.
Yeah.
And if I compare it to the traditional two houses, which also are equipped for slower growing with daylight and winter garden, I can save about 75% on energy consumption.
75%.
75%.
It's quite considerable.
That's an average on 5
Yeah,
or
okay.
6 years. Yeah.
So then obviously you are collecting data on all, many data on what's happening inside your houses.
Yeah, we do. And I think it's good to mention because I think it's the next step in developing farm, just not only my farm, but for farmers in general, to making next steps in management, in reducing fail costs, and also in predicting what next flock can do. Because if you take a deep look at your existing data, don't buy new sensors, I always say, but use your existing data from your houses. Take a different look as you are used to do it, then you can discover new patterns and you can almost predict what's happening in next flock. So I think we are just at the beginning of data collection and especially in data analysis, but it can help farmers to take a deeper look into your farm data and to set up your management to a next level.
Yeah, that sounds promising. Back to the principle of the house, because those collecting data is very important, what I understand from you. Back to the principle of the house. You don't have any fans or
No.
or whatever. So then what is the principle of the ventilation in the house?
It's fully natural ventilated.
Yeah.
And technically, it's the chimney effect which generates enough ventilation, which means that the inlet opening has to be quite a big difference in height if you compare it to the outlet. And in my case, it's a difference almost 8-9 meters, which generates enough airflow even when there's no wind, because that's worst case scenario. There's no wind. Then you have to have enough airflow for ventilating your house.
Yeah.
And because there's no, and that's a very, I wasn't aware of it, aware of the fact that if you don't have fans in your house and you don't have blowers from the heating system, it's very quiet in the house. And
Quiet.
a lot of animal welfare companies, people who visited my house, they were very enthusiastic and they always say, what nice that you can hear the birds talking. But I wasn't aware of the fact, but it's true that you don't have any noise. It's a very nice surrounding, not only for the birds, but also for me.
Okay. Do you note any difference in growth performance compared to the other houses that you have?
Because we started from scratch and we started 5 years ago, we have to develop the software. And it took us for about 2 years of doing all the ventilation manually before we trusted our software. And for example, we skipped all the temperature sensors. It's not that we don't measure temperature, but we mainly based our ventilation rate on relative humidity. The moisture which the birds produce is compared by the computer by the outside moisture and the air temperature. That's the decision-making point of the computer. That's a very big principle, and if I make the relationship to my performance, then you see that I'm, I think, almost equal to the traditional houses, except maybe one flock in 2 years when it's very cold and moisturized weather, and the birds are not fully feathered, around 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, then sometimes nothing happens. They are still healthy, but sometimes they use 2 or 3 points feed conversion rate more than the other two houses.
Okay.
But that's only one flock in 2 years, and maybe some years nothing. And if I make a financial calculation, I can compare it, and I see every flock 75% less energy cost. That helped me much more than the feed conversion rate to 2 points.
And that's the big advantage of this house model, of this
Yeah.
model of house, this construction.
Yeah, but there's also, because it's quite a robust system, as a farmer you are a little bit less in control. But for example, if the wind comes into your house and it comes from a different direction and it drops down, it drops for about 12 meters, so it's always mixed up. So there's no healthy issues or problems or too much airflow at bird level. That's a very big advantage of our house.
Yeah.
Because it's that voluminous as a building, that it's always, it's kind of an insurance for to prevent ventilation faults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Promising. Will there be more houses to be built when you do, or would you recommend farmers to build such a type of house?
Yeah, I think especially if you want to step out of the current concurrent market and you want to do something special, it's a very promising a house to build, especially you are off grid or located somewhere lonely. And there's only one exception, but that's always a big issue even in mechanical ventilated houses. That's if you have a very moisturized and hot climatic circumstances, then it can be very difficult to because you have a lower airspeed to keep the birds alive, for example, at 45 degrees centigrade with 90% humidity. So you have to take care of and take aware of the climatic circumstances in your location you're located at. So that's something you have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But I think in 80% of the world it should perfectly fit.
Okay. Well, excellent. It sounds very promising for many more people. Thanks for the interview.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.